This video has two objectives. The first objective is we're going to see how can I skip to another page in a notebook file. I'm a math teacher, and oftentimes I put up the answers for the problems from the previous night. And then if students have questions, I can scroll through the notebook file to get to the question that the student have, and then we can go rework that problem and try and figure out where they made their mistakes. There are some times, though, in which there are no questions, and rather than continuing to arrow through all of the notebook files until I get to the page I want, I sometimes create a little link that says no questions, and then when I click it, I get to the page that I want. It's a great time saver, and so I'm going to show you how you can create a link, create a button that links to a page in your notebook file so that you can skip pages when necessary. So I'm going to create it on this particular slide. Again, this is an example from my Algebra 2 class. I want to go back to the home page because I know that there's a second objective. The way to create a link, first I have to figure out what do I want to press, what kind of object do I want to press, and I typically choose different shapes. Up at the top we can choose, there's several shapes including hearts and stars, or we have the different polygons that are available. And if I would like to create a home button, you can choose whichever shape you want to, or you can even just have words. I'm going to go ahead and choose a square and draw my shape in there. I also like to color in that square. So first I need to make sure that I am no longer drawing, and I want to select the square that I've just drawn here. So I've gone to the arrow key and select my square. I want to change its colors because I like to just pick different kind of colors to fill in. Once I've filled in, I need to tell what this is going to represent, so I can put in a text, and I'm going to type in home. Now I see my text is bigger than my box, so I can shrink that. And also, because I've chosen such a dark color, I want to change the color of my text so it'll stay in there so I can see it. So I'm going to hit my arrow, go to properties, and I want my text color to be white. I may have to highlight it first and then hit the white. Now my text is white, it's inside my box, I know exactly where it is. Let me hide that, get off there. So now the next thing I want to do is because I created two things, I have a text and I also have the box, I want them to become one whole thing. So as long as I have the arrow, which is the selection, I'm going to select both of them by drawing a box around them. And you can see I have two things selected. Once I have those two things, I'm going to go to properties and group it. Now, I'm doing something that's pretty somewhat complicated. You can do a lot more simple. If you were the only one using your particular slides, you may just need a box. I like to try and remind myself what this stands for. So now, my text and the box are all put together. Now it's time to link it. So again, I am with the select tool. I'm going to put it on my box, and I will hit my right button on my mouse. This brings up other properties. I want to then choose the link property because I want to take this particular button and link it. You can link it to a web page if you want to go outside. What I want to do is link it to a page in this file itself. So the page in the file, and I want to return, when you start off, it's going to start at the very first page you started with in your file, that you could go through and have to decide, well, where do I want it to go? I said I wanted to go back to the first page, so I'm choosing the first page. This last thing, if you keep it where it says corner icon, I'm going to say OK. Then what you've done is you've created a button in the corner of the button that you want. I don't like that because sometimes I don't see that. So again, I'm going back to link. And this time I want to link it to the object, not the corner icon. So whenever I do my links, they're always to the object itself. When I hit OK, this means when I click on the object, you now see a little hand, and this will take me back to the page that I started off with. So you have seen the first example of clicking to another page. Again, I can put as many of them in there, and we just created this one that says go home. So that completes our first example, or first objective. Our second objective is, well, how do I create animations in Notebook? So you've noticed I've had a couple animations with these blocks that have disappeared. That isn't considered an animation. Here are other ways that I've used animations. When I put up a calendar in my Smart Notebook, I do animations on important dates like quizzes and tests. So you see these stars that are going on that show my students that, hey, these are some important things that they need to know. So we're going to create an animation, both the stars and other ways that you can use an animation. Lots of times when I do my bill work, I am trying to save time. I want to just do a quick little check to see what do they know. It leads into either what we're getting ready to teach using something they already know, or it's an extension of a previous lesson that I just taught. My previous bill works used to look something like this, and then I would spend the time working out the problems, or the students would work out the problems, and it was taking a lot more time than I wanted. When bill work is supposed to be something that is a quick check in a sense. So my bill works now look more like this, where I have the same problems, but the answers are already there, and I can have a student or myself just to go through and do a very quick little check and see that the answers are already there. The other things I put in for my bill work is that, okay, if they miss something, then I go to a slide that shows, hey, this is how it works out, those problems. If they don't miss anything, then I can go and skip that slide and get to where I want to go in my lesson. So let's create something. How do I go from this original bell work that had absolutely no answers that I would spend time working through to a bell work that has answers where I can just click? So first you do have to put the answers in there, and then I chose to cover up those answers using a rectangular shape. You can use other kinds of shapes. It is totally up to you. You just want to make sure that it is big enough to cover up your answers. So I've created the shape. I'm going to go back to my selection tool so I can select it. And then I'm going to go to my properties so I can, or choose up here so I can fill in the color. So the color this time, I think I had it was blue. And so now you see that this is totally covered. Well, I could continue to do it just like this, but I would have to myself personally go and remove every single one in order to see what was going on. So rather than doing that, I created an animation. First, I'm going to, when you double click inside your object, you can actually type in it. So I'm going to tell myself what I'm going to do. Click to see answer. And if I make this a smaller font, then I have my block. Now I just need to animate it. So again, selection, I have the arrow for selection. I'm going to click on the blocks, and this time I'm going to go down to properties. In properties, you have the fill styles and line styles, which mine was up here, so I didn't have to go through properties. Text style, again, I already have it up here. You want to choose object animation. This is going to tell you how to animate the object. Right now, we have none. That means I have to physically move it myself if I want it to disappear. If I choose something else, though, I can choose that it will fade out, or I can have it rotate, or I can fly in or fly out. Since I want this to disappear, I'm going to choose fly out. I can choose the direction I want it to fly out, to the left, to the right, top or bottom. I'm going to go to the right. You can choose how fast or slow you want it. I'm going to keep it at normal. And then when does this occur? I want it to occur when I click on it. You can also have the animation occur when you enter the page. Those were the spiraling stars that were going on my calendar. But this is going to happen only when I click on it. And then I chose that it does not repeat. Now let me go, and I just clicked off. And now when I click on it, it should happen. It flies away. To bring it back, all you have to do is either go back to the previous slide or the following slide, and then when you come back, you actually get to see what that looks like. Now, rather than going through that process all over again, I'm just going to right-click and copy, and then right-click and paste. And when I say right-click, I'm right-clicking on my mouse. And copy and pasting, great thing is once I do that, I still have that animation going on. So I've copied it already once. I'm going to paste. Let's cover up the third problem, and then paste and cover up the fourth problem. So again, if I want to see the one that I had fly away, I'm going to just arrow forward and arrow back. And now I have my slide taken care of, where when I'm checking bell work or having the students check bell work, they can just click to see the answer and it flies away. Now, to give you an idea of how to do the rotating and the stars, if you're going to use different thing, I'm going to go back to the very first slide. I want to tell you you did an awesome job. So the shape that I'm going to choose is the heart. Come down and make my heart. And go back to my selection tool. I'll click on the heart. Let me do a right click so I can bring up the properties. And go to Object Animation. Right now there's nothing going on with that heart. But this time I want it to shrink and grow. Show you how much I love working in College Station ISD. So right now it's going to grow, but it can also shrink if I choose that. It's a normal speed. It's going to happen. I want this to happen when the page is entered rather than when it's clicked. So as soon as this page comes up, you will see the heart shrinking and growing. And then I want it to continue on. You could choose whether or not you want it to shrink and grow 1 time, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, or forever. I'm going to choose 5 times. So I have set this up. All I have to do to activate it, because it's going to activate once I actually come to that page. So if I scroll 1 and let's go back, I now have the shrinking and growing, and that should happen 5 times and then it will stop. This concludes the video covering how to link to another page in your Smart Notebook, as well as how to use animations in your Smart Notebook. Good luck, everybody.